Hi, class. Today we're going to talk about, I'm going to say a few things on lower class based theories of delinquency, our topic for this week. More specifically, I'll talk about Cohen, the middle class measuring rod, just a few words, Cloward and Lloyd's opportunity theory, and Walter Miller's lower class value system. Make sure you read that, of course, in the textbook. And as always, I have all the notes that are provided to you on Canvas. And so as usual, we'll have our weekly discussion board this week. I always try to make them thoughtful and creative and to foster good and critical discussion each week. So let's keep up the good work. Just remember, and most of you have gotten much better at this, and you're even getting better and better. So see a lot of good grades. But reply posts should be just as critical and thoughtful as the original post, with ideas that either add or provide something meaningful to the discussion. And so, well, it's great to agree with peers and everything. Add something new though, something critical, something more to further discussion. Could even be in the form of questions and things. So, and it's always good to use storytelling and other types of examples to illustrate all of your points and substantiate your arguments. And so discussion boards keep on getting better and better each week. And so I appreciate that. Just a few words on Cohen's middle class measuring rod. Keep in mind that, education is still generally a middle class institution, and middle class people have, they have the social and cultural capital to adjust well, almost seamlessly when they enter into middle class institutions like education. They're generally well mannered, they have accepted all the rules, they are docile to authority, obey the teachers, follow all the rules, follow all the rubrics, maintain, mild mannered, somewhat passive, things of that nature. And so middle class kids already have the social and cultural capital to seamlessly enter into the middle class educational institution. A lot of working class kids, though, they're kind of geared towards they have a different type of cultural and social capital, and one that really works well for their communities and their neighborhoods. But their social and cultural capital doesn't transfer as well to a middle class institution. That's why a lot of times working class people will appear more aggressive, they'll appear more rambunctious. When they get excited, they might talk out of turn or not raise their hand or give proper deference to the authority. I've taught in a lot of middle class, before I became a professor, I was a teacher, and I taught in middle class schools, not middle class schools, sorry, the opposite, very working class schools in tough neighborhoods in New Orleans and in Brooklyn especially. I taught in juvenile jails, as I've told you before, but also other types of inner city schools in Brooklyn. And while those kids were just as intelligent and just as smart in these schools, they oftentimes had a lot of problems from teachers because they didn't follow, they didn't have the middle class social and cultural capital that a lot of teachers expected. And so they would punish them for appearing to talk out of turn or appearing to be aggressive, things of that nature, when they were really just excited about talking about certain topics in class. And so the point is that whenever you're born in a middle class, family, a middle class cultural milieu, it's easy to navigate middle class institutions. But when you've been excluded from middle class institutions and you live in these kind of hyper segregated neighborhoods of apartheid in the United States, you have a different type of social and cultural capital that allows you to navigate your own milieu quite well. And when you try to enter into middle class institutions, sometimes the social and cultural working class capital that you have is oftentimes frowned upon and even punished. And so in a lot of these types of schools, that's why you see smart, talented, creative, artistic kids from working class settings find a lot of discouragement in middle class institutions because teachers, in fact, the educational system expects them to act like middle class people instead of working class. And that puts them at a severe disadvantage. Anyways, read that section. It's really interesting, I think, in the book. There's also the 9 concepts that characterize middle class values, which I thought was interesting. Things like drive and ambition, individual responsibility, achievement and success in the classroom, and work or any form of competition, willingness to postpone immediate satisfaction of wants and desires for later reward, rationality with long-term planning and budgeting, exercise of courtesy and self-control with others, control of violence and aggression, physical or verbal, um, wholesale recreation and constructive use of leisure time, hobby, etc., respect for the property of others. And of course, in part of the discussion board, I'm going to ask, does this really characterize middle class people? This doesn't characterize working class people. What about control of violence and aggression? Does that, for example, does that really characterize middle class society? And we're one of the most violent and aggressive countries in the world, constantly engaged in forever wars, colonization, bombing people. Is that control of violence and aggression among our our ruling elite? I don't think so. And so we really have to scrutinize and I think critique what passed for middle class values. Does this really represent middle class culture? Is this exclusive only to middle class culture and not, say, working class culture or even upper class ruling elite culture? And so those are the kind of questions that are posed to you in a discussion board. And I really look forward to some of your comments there. Then there's also differential opportunity structure. This is an extension of Robert Merton's cultural goals and institutional means. In other words, so those people who do not experience the structural contradiction between cultural goals and institutional means, that is, people who have accepted the cultural goals and have been given access to the institutional means, they simply conform and enter into the opportunity structure they have access to. That is, the legitimate institutions of school and the workplace. So no structural contradictions. You have the opportunity structure of school and education that you have access to. So you enter into that opportunity structure to achieve the cultural goals. However, those who are denied access to legitimate opportunity structures to achieve the cultural goals of society enter into an opportunity structure that's available to them, a different opportunity structure. And oftentimes that's the informal economy. And so keep in mind too, that if that structural contradiction didn't exist for those people, if they were given access to the institutional means, then the need for a different opportunity structure would never arise, and there wouldn't be the informal economy in the first place. So the informal economy arises out of structural contradictions. So why are we blaming people who are just entering into the opportunity structure that is available to them to achieve the desired cultural goals? Why are we punishing them and putting them in jail? Again, the question comes back to, if we really want to end the informal economy of the illicit drug world, then we need to erase or resolve the structural contradiction between cultural goals and institutional means. And again, people that are excluded from the institutional means, they simply find a different opportunity structure that is available to them. Again, the illicit economy. And so check that out. It's pretty good reading. Finally, this is also part of the discussion board, the focal concerns of the 6 key components of lower class culture. And some of those were trouble, like run-ins with authority, toughness, concern for physical prowess, strength, smartness, ability to outwit others, excitement, fate, autonomy. And again, just like with the working class characteristics, do these components or characteristics of lower class culture really apply only to lower class culture? There's no idea of toughness in middle class culture, especially when you think about sports and football, etc. Or what about excitement? Think about high school students going out to 3rd Street in lacrosse and getting on their kicks and giggles. Is that only a working class thing, not a middle class thing? So again, we have to keep in mind that a lot of these theorists at the time, these were upper middle class white men viewing the world from their own perspectives and lenses from an upper middle class kind of white culture. And so here they are then characterizing the so-called lower class or the working class people. And do these components really apply to lower class people, and not to say Wall Street executives. You don't think Wall Street executives are dealing with excitement, gambling millions of dollars? And so again, that's going to be part of our discussion post where we begin to critique how these theorists viewed middle class characteristics, working class culture, all in their attempt to explain youth delinquency and transgression. So again, we should know the theories and understand all the theories, to constantly critique these theories as well, and ask questions. And so your week four discussion board will deal with Cohen's middle class measuring rod, Cloud and Lloyd's opportunity structure, and Miller's lower class value system to explain delinquency. So again, check out the discussion board, make sure you look at it carefully, answer all parts, and you're doing a great job. So please keep it up. And thank you very much. You all have a good week, and I'll see you on the discussion board. Take care.